What's up, guys? I'm Joe. Today I'm talking about the new Stone Sour album, Hydrograd. So Stone Sour is back with their sixth studio album, Hydrograd. Overall, an album I'm enjoying quite a lot, I gotta say. Picked up the CD as soon as I could, been jamming it all weekend long. Listened to it quite a lot in a short amount of time, so I figured I'd jump on the review. Stone Sour for me, it's always been a band that I liked, but I never thought was quite a good album band. More of like a songs band for me. And as someone that likes to listen to full albums, that always kind of bugged me a little bit. I never thought the albums were quite so cohesive that you can listen to them all the way through. Oftentimes a lot of filler in their earlier records. And for me personally, I would say The House of Gold and Bones Part 1 is probably my favorite album from them, because there's not a song that I skip on there. I think it's solid all the way through, and I feel like it's a nice cohesive album. And I even thought that Part 2 was a bit of a letdown, actually. So I was a little wary of this album because of the longer track listing going on. There's 15 songs on the record, though one is just an intro to the first actual song on there. But still, it's quite a lot. And as a band that I've personally thought often has a lot of filler on their albums, I was afraid that this might happen with this one, but I gotta say I really like every track on this album, and I'm kind of surprised. Corey Taylor had been alluding to the fact that this was going to be a very big album for them, some of their best material, and overall a different feel than we've come to expect for the band. And I would agree, what I'm hearing on here seems to be a lot of influence. I really feel like they're wearing their influence on their sleeves, bands that they grew up listening to, bands that shaped them musically. And I think that actually comes as a result of those two cover EPs that they came out with not too long ago. You're hearing Judas Priest, Kiss, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Metallica. Really great versions all around of those songs. There was supposed to be a third one that I was looking forward to, actually. I got the first two on vinyl. The third one hasn't dropped. They said they might be considering doing something with Hydrograd and that third EP, and then that didn't happen. Maybe a deluxe edition will come out along the way. But I feel like you hear those influences. They're definitely letting that shine through more than I think they ever have in past albums. Perfect example would be Type A Personality. The first real song on here, there's an intro right before that. Those guitar chords come in, I'm thinking, straight up Judas Priest. This sounds very 80s metal to me. Just between the production of the guitars and that kind of power chord heavy riff going on there, definitely reminds me of Priest. And, my initial thought was that came from doing them on that cover EP. And that kind of comes through on the chorus too, and I would say on a lot of choruses on the songs on this album. They're huge. They sound like they're meant to fill stadiums, these choruses here. Even some of the heavier tracks will hit you with a really catchy chorus, and not in like a sappy or commercial radio-y type of way. I just think they're really epic sounding choruses that you come to expect with 80s metal style bands. Judas Priest, Iron Maiden. Just big soaring vocals and big choruses all around, and that's what I'm loving about a lot of the tracks on this album. Type A Personality, Fabulous has a really big one as well, kind of like even a multi-part chorus going on in that song. The title track, Hydrograd, a personal favorite of mine, has another big epic chorus on it. Plus, I really like the verses in that song, the guitar riff. It kind of has a nice slow drive to it, which I really like. Song number 3 is another good song. That was a single. It's been out for a little while now. Kind of funny side story behind that song, I guess. Chad Kroeger from Nickelback had recently come out and was slamming Corey Taylor kind of just out of nowhere, saying, they're Nickelback light, and how about Corey Taylor writes a hit song? And just as this is going on, song number 3 is a hit song for them, going number 1. So that's pretty cool. The Witness Trees is another great song for me, one of my personal favorites on the album. Kind of slower, darker, eerier kind of verse, but much like the other songs on this album, hits you with a very catchy chorus, but also great soaring vocals, very epic sounding. Corey Taylor has a really great performance on this song, I think. You can really, hear and feel the emotion in his performance. And while you have your fair share of slower driving songs on this album, which by the way never really gets boring for me, because it's definitely All those songs have their own great qualities to them. You know, Mercy is another single. They did that live performance video of it. That's a little on the slower side, but also just a great song all around. But there is your fair share of just heavy, awesome riffs on this album, heavy, awesome songs. You definitely hear that with Whiplash Pants and Somebody Stole My Eyes later in the album. Very heavy songs. Corey Taylor even going into Slipknot territory kind of with the vocals, with that kind of fast-paced vocal technique going on there that Stone Sour isn't usually known for. Maybe like their first record, some songs here and there, but I like that you do get those heavy tracks on there. Bounces out with more of the modern rock, hard rock type songs, you know, and overall, like I said, that kind of 80s influence you hear shining through on a lot of these, which, as a fan of 80s metal, a huge fan of 80s metal, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, those kind of guys being my favorite bands, absolutely loving it because it's not overdone, it's not like ripping them off or anything like that. It's like you hear that it's there, you can hear what they're going for, but it's still Stone Sour at the end of the day. They'll hit you with, you know, Corey Taylor's crazy screams or something like that, or like, you know, they'll throw like a really dirty sounding riff in there, like Type A Personality, to go back to that one, had that Priest kind of vibe going on throughout the verses and the chorus, but then, you know, the bridge has this awesome heavy riff, kind of reminds me of Slayer a little bit, like South of Heaven, slower type Slayer, but just heavy, and Corey Taylor coming in with the more aggressive type vocals in the bridge there. So you're really getting influence on one hand, but, you know, what you would expect from Stone Sour on the other, and I think it just merges so well. And they dabble into lighter territory here. You have Saint Marie, which is mostly an acoustic track, which is a pretty good song overall. And the closer, When the Fever Broke, is more of a kind of trancy almost song with a very echoey kind of guitars and the drums, and you hear these guitar patterns over top of it interchangeably throughout the song. Definitely makes for an interesting closer. Something else I noticed, and nothing against Jim Root at all, who had been a big part of this band, major part of writing, as you probably know, is also in Slipknot with Corey Taylor, but he did in fact leave this band to focus more on Slipknot itself, and it seems to me like the guy that they got to replace Jim Root shreds that guitar, is a great guitar player. In the past, I've found that Stone Sour's guitar solos, when they did happen, were sort of underwhelming. Though I love the album, House of Gold and Bones Part 1 comes to mind, especially something like the opening track, Gone Sovereign. Very fast, aggressive song once it kicks in, but the solos are just so underwhelming on that one. Kind of slow and windy and spacey, like not much going on there. Here, on all of Hydrograd, throughout the album, you're hearing little guitar licks in the sidelines, and then when the solos do come at full force right up front, they're just really good, and very much in that vein of 80s metal or, you know, classic rock type solos, which is something we have not heard from Stone Sour before. So if you're a fan of guitar, listening to the guitar, playing guitar, you enjoy a nice guitar solo, you get plenty of that on here, which me as a guitar player who enjoys that kind of stuff, I think is a huge benefit to the band and to this album. It kind of makes it stand out as its own kind of thing. So I think it's really great. I'm seeing Stone Sour this summer with Korn, actually, so I'm excited to hear some of these songs as well as the old classics. And overall, I think I'm going to give this album a 4.5 out of 5. I'm just, you know, really enjoying this thing all the way through. I don't see getting tired of these songs, especially because I've been listening to those first 3 singles for quite a while now, over and over. Maybe it might not stick with everyone so much, because I would say it is a little different from what we'd expect from Stone Sour, and, you know, Stone Sour gets a lot of flack because there's so much focus on Corey Taylor in like the rock and metal news that people seem to get a little tired of them. Oh, they're not real metal, Stone Sour, so not all that kind of stuff. But for me, a really solid album all the way through, something I do not always think is the case with Stone Sour, and really rarely find myself listening to their full albums over and over again. So yeah, let me know what you think of the album, some of your favorite songs, if you like it, don't like it, whatever. Don't forget to subscribe, check out some more videos, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.